issues. And it's something we wouldn't be able to do otherwise, because there are usually 70, 80 participants, and obviously we can't ask each and every one of you individually. So instead we do polling, and that is something we could actually try out right away. Normally, when I invite you to participate in polling, I have one more chart, one more slide in between that gives you an idea what the agenda of the day looks like. So perhaps we could get that out of the way so that you know what's happening. That is something that I can't do. Here we are. So opening, welcoming, and introduction. That's what's happening now. This is it. Then after our polling, which will happen next, we will have the framing session, i.e. Peru country profile presentation. And this will be followed by the panel discussion, which will basically take the lion's share of the session. We have something like 80 minutes for the panel discussion. So a lot of space there, a lot of room there to address issues and include your questions, of course. And then last but not least, we have a short wrap up and closing of the session. And then we give you a brief outlook on what happens next. So this is the agenda, the whole session, 2 hours, not longer than that. So bear with us. And now let's try the first polling, because I told you where I am. I'm in Berlin. Where are you right now? Here it is. So from which region are you? North America, Central America, South America, Africa, Europe, Asia Pacific, Australasia. Just click the right box and submit. There's another question that we can include. For what kind of organization do you work? Again, we have various choices for you. You just click the right box. And last but not least, how familiar are you with comprehensive climate and disaster risk management? Very somewhat not familiar. I'm here to learn. Every answer is the right answer. You just have to make a choice and then submit. And as you can see, you've got about 20 seconds left, and then this polling will end. So it's not rocket science. It's easy, but it helps us to figure out if you understand how to use this tool and whether you can engage in the chat later on, which of course is something that we would very much appreciate. So the minute is up. So no more submissions now. And this always takes just a couple of seconds for the polling system to reveal the result. Again, this wasn't a question where there are right or wrong answers. This is just to give us a rough overview who is joining this session. So here we are. Okay, so again, well, there's a red thread in the day. The majority of the participants are based in Europe or are from Europe. Maybe you're somewhere else right now. And again, the second largest, or in this case, the largest chunk of participants hasn't given an answer. So you just don't dig polling. Fair enough. Kind of organization, very similar picture there, but we have a rough idea who is represented here. NGO is not mentioned, but then again, maybe it's among the no answers. And when it comes to the familiarity of the subject, very familiar. Well, of course, this is an expert session, so most of you will be dealing with these issues, but also for that one person who said not familiar, here to learn, hello, you're very welcome, and I hope there will be many takeaways for you. So anyway, this is how polling works. Later on, we will do polling with really specific issue-related questions, and hopefully you'll participate, because it's always good to know where you stand. And that brings us now to basically the real kickoff for this session, and that is the framing session. Let's learn a little bit more about Peru and the way it tackles climate change and disaster risk management, and what kind of strategies are in place, how the coordination on government and country level looks like, listing existing initiatives and who is involved. All of these things we'd be very much interested to hear now from Carlos Izaguirre. I hope I pronounce this correctly. I'm not very good at Spanish. I'm trying my best. Yeah, he's the Deputy Superintendent of Insurance at the Superintendency of Banking, Insurance and Private Pension Funds Administrators of Peru. Carlos, I can pronounce that. I hand over to you now. The floor is yours. 15 minutes for your presentation, and we're all ears. And please don't forget to activate your microphone.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share some thoughts about what we are doing in Peru. That's right, Carlos is my name. Izaguirre is the last one. A few years ago, when I was studying abroad, my friends always have the same problem with the pronunciation. They always call me Jerry Maguire, but it's not the case. Well, let me introduce, please, the topic. Next, please. The next slide, please. The next one. Peru is a highly vulnerable to this drastic climatic variations that have occurred in the recent years. Evidence of this being the economic losses that involve weather phenomena such as the El Niño Costero in 2017, which affected the entire Peruvian coast and different regions on the country. Peru is also exposed to earthquake and tsunami risk due to its location in the Pacific Circle of Fire, a highly seismic region, which makes the country's building particularly vulnerable to such risks. Consequently, the insurance sector, by providing coverage to buildings, their contents, and public, is also highly exposed to seismic risk typical of this region. But as you see in the slide, it's not the only risk. We face drought, floods, eruptions, and avalanches. The next one, please. This phenomena, without the intervention of Peruvian state through disaster prevention and management policies, have the potential to produce a devastating impact on various sectors of the economy, negatively affecting the economy's growth. This affects the government, the business, homeowners, farmers, and the population in extreme poverty situations. The next one, please. The role of the state, in the case of the agricultural sector, the Peruvian government has designed and implemented policies aimed at agricultural activities such as the National Agrarian Policy and plans for managing risk related to climate change, such as the National Plan for Disaster Risk Management and the Risk Management Plan and Adaptation to Climate Change. Likewise, the creation and development of agricultural insurance has been closely linked to cooperation between various policies, various public and private entities such as ministries, SBS, and insurance companies, which in recent years, through public and private forums for dialogue, have made it possible to obtain important improvements in insurance programs, including an increase and improvement of scope on its coverage throughout the country, and increase in the amount of compensation provided and an important in its targeting. You see here different tools. All these ones has a same issue related, that is that insurance is considered in all of these documents as a mitigator, as a risk management tool. And in the other side of this slide, you see different entities, different ministries, the insurance supervisor, and as well the insurance private association that are closely dialoguing in order to improve different ways how to manage these climate change risks. The next one, please. Within the framework of these policies, the catastrophic agricultural insurance was created in 2008, the proposal of which is to provide coverage and substantive farmers with high rates of poverty who may suffer losses to their crops as a result of catastrophic weather events. This secures the compensation that allows them to survive in the face of these events. The next one. Additionally, other agricultural insurance have been developed to provide coverage to small and medium producers with access to credit. In this respect, the government agreed to co-finance up to 50% of the total premiums of the insurance contracted to guarantee agricultural loans. The individual limit per agricultural producer is 10 hectares, and all livestock activities whose total insured value or sum does not exceed 15 tax units. It's around $20,000. The next one, please. Regarding the 2019 and 2020 agricultural season, the Catastrophic Agricultural Insurance Program had a budget of 45 million to finance 100% of the premiums. This has allowed it to provide a coverage to approximately 474,000 agricultural producers and 1.1 million hectares in a total of 14 regions of the country. In relation to the 2020 and 2021 agricultural season, this catastrophic insurance coverage is being granted to 24 regions of Peru, insuring 2.3 million hectares and at a cost of 57 million, and benefiting more than 950,000 small families in a group of agricultural producers. The next one, please. I would like to talk about these systems for catastrophic risk management. This is a SBS regulation. The evaluation and analysis of seismic danger is subject to constant developments from scientific and engineering advances in methodologies and standards of practice. Since the approval of the regulation issued by the Superintendency and the Catastrophic Risk Reserve in 2005 up to the present, there have been multiple developments in scientific, technological, and research matters relating to soil types, seismic microzoning, and technical construction standards, among others, which have made a review and updating that regulation necessary. Over the last few years, there has been a significant increase in the size of insurance portfolios as a result of the development of the market and the country's economic growth, thus increasing the exposure of this sector to earthquakes and tsunami risk. To address this, the Superintendency made a decision to review the calculation methodology contained in the technical basis for estimating losses and earthquake insurance purposes, prepared by the Japanese-Peruvian Center for Seismic Research and Disaster Mitigation, which is part of the regulation. We hired the seismic in 2016-2017 through the National University of Engineering. With regard to the Peruvian regulation that regulate the construction of the reserve of catastrophic risk and uncertainty exposure, there is currently a draft version that addresses the comments of the Peruvian insurance industry and actors regarding this risk. We expect that new regulation to be published in the first quarter of next year, which will incorporate a substantial adoption period for insurance industry. The next one, please. As part of the new methodology for estimating losses in the insurance portfolios against catastrophic risk, significant improvements were incorporated, such as development of an entire probabilistic model, incorporation of tsunami risk in the modeling, increase in the seismogenic sources, incorporating of new attenuation factors that better reflect the reality of the country, updating microzoning studies in Lima and Callao, the incorporation of structural systems that better reflect the conditions in Peru, among other improvements that make the model of the new technical basis elaborated by the SMIT adequate for the country in terms of estimating losses for earthquake and tsunami risk in the portfolios of domestic insurance. Finally, the next one, please. This technical node needs to be put in a software in order to help us to estimate losses and how to manage and mitigate that risk and the correct calculus of the technical reserve. A study carried out to calculate risk metrics by applying the new methodology to the portfolio of Peruvian companies, which took into account the national exposure in 2018 and 2019, highlighted the need for this regulatory body to have a tool that allows for the calculation of estimated losses with a new methodology developed by Dusty Smith. In November 2019, the superintendency began to project the development and implement a computer tool that allows for the application of the updated methodology. This tool is expected to help to ensure that calculus of exposures and insurance companies' portfolio are consistent with the actual exposure to the country's earthquake and tsunami risk. We are currently in the last stage of the adaptation of the catastrophe risk modeling software, which incorporates the estimation of earthquake and tsunami risks. Tests have been carried out that shows encouraging results in terms of its operation and efficiency. So that's so far what we are doing. There's something else that probably Gregorio is going to share during his participation. So I am open to continue talking about this interesting topic in the conversation.
Well, thank you very much, Carlos, for the presentation that gave us a very good overview of what's going on in Peru. And as you said already, there'll be plenty of room now for more, well, let's not call it presentations, because that's not what it is, but shorter interventions by the panelists. And obviously, we'll be able to explore more action that Peru is taking, more strategies, and also looking at some of the challenges, room for improvement. But before we go there, before I introduce the panelists, I would like to encourage our participants to participate in a polling again. Again, this is something that is now for us to figure out sort of how familiar are you with Peru. It'll probably be interesting for you as well. It's like a sort of general knowledge we figure out. So if the back office could activate the polling, because we have 3 questions, very briefly. And again, you use the box that you think is the right answer and make your tick. There are 3 official languages in Peru: Spanish, Aymara, and you have 3 choices. Go for the one you think is right. Secondly, Peru is the eggs largest fish producer in the world, 6th, 9th, or 14th. Make your choice. And last but not least, have a guess approximately how many types of potatoes grow in Peru. You have a choice there: 350, 1,000, or 3,000. So again, make your pick. We have almost a minute left, so you can think a little bit. But be sure, maybe even those who didn't participate in the polling last time, all you have to do is tick the box, tick the next box, and then press submit. And then we will see where we all stand and how much we know about the country that our session is all about now, that we focus on. So maybe we can shorten the time to 1:30. I think 90 seconds is enough, right? For those who know the answers, exactly. For those who know the answers, it's done quickly. And for those who guess, it's done quickly too. So let's find out. I happen to know the right answer for question 1 about the 3 official languages, Spanish, Aymara, and Quechua would have been the correct answer. And there you are. Pretty much the majority of those who took part knew that. Peru is the 9th largest fish producer in the world. 9 participants knew the answer. The others were slightly off, but thanks for trying anyway. And last but not least, about the potato types that grow in Peru. To be perfectly honest, I can't give you the right answer because I had a totally different question here in my papers. So I trust the right one is the one that the majority picked. If not, we have a lot of Peru experts in the panel now, and they can probably tell us what the right answer would have been. So thank you very much. Here it is. Somebody is just prompting me. So 3,000, yes. So the 15 who picked the 3,000 were right. There you are. That's how much I know about potatoes in Peru. So let's get the panelists in now. We have 6. For one, of course, we have Carlos Izaguirre again, the Deputy Superintendent of Insurance at the SBS in Peru. We have Claudia Thume, the Director of Emerging Markets Development at AXA XL in Zurich, Switzerland. We have Renato Bedoya Quirinos, Risk Manager, APESEG. That's the Asociación Peruana de Empresa de Seguros. We have Lourdes del Carpio, Manager of Crop Insurance at La Positiva Seguros, also an insurance company. We have Gregorio Belonde, Independent Senior Consultant. And we have Juan José Durante, Head of Risk Financing and Insurance, the Inter-American Development Bank. So those are the 6 2 ladies and the 4 gentlemen who join us now for the panel discussion. And they can all activate their cameras now that we can actually see them. And then I would like to invite them to present themselves and the kind of work they do in a kind of elevator pitch. So no 5-6 minutes presentation, but very short, very crisp, about 1 minute, who they are, what they do, and what makes them tick with this topic. So let's have a look at the next slide so that I don't invite the wrong person. And it's Claudia Thume. So Claudia, do tell us a little bit about you. As we said, roughly a minute would do. Thank you. And please activate your camera and your microphone.
Yes. Hi, Monica. Can you see me? I was having a problem with my video.
We can hear you. That's already a good start. And other than that, it's something very blue and dark.
Okay.
But we go with the sound. We go with the sound now because we have the slides and we figure out the rest later.
Absolutely. So hello, everyone. My name is Claudia Thume. In addition to the role that Monica mentioned at AXA XL, I'm also the industry deputy chair of the working group Sovereign and Humanitarian Solutions at the Insurance Development Forum, something that takes up a lot of my time. And I also co-lead the project that we are conducting in that context, which is to develop an insurance program for the public schools in Peru. I've been in the insurance industry for over 20 years. And my role has really pretty much always been to drive the use of insurance, increase use of insurance, both in mature and emerging markets. In that area, I've worked with really on and with all continents, North America, Europe, but of course also Africa, Asia, and specifically Latin America. I was born and grew up in Chile, so Latin America is close to my heart. And in addition to my studies in education and an MBA, I also looked into behavioral economics because I believe that behavior is such an important and interesting factor of why people and governments decide to use or not to use insurance, which is our topic today. I'll leave it at that for now, Monica. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claudia. Sound was brilliant. Slide was fantastic. And now all we have to do is work on the picture, but you were there before. We'll get you back, no doubt. So the next slide, please, so I can invite the right person, and that is Renato Bedoya. Please switch on your camera function and your microphone and tell us a little bit about yourself. Over to you.
Oh, Monica, good afternoon to all. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Yes, perfect. Well, my name is Renato Bedoya. I'm the risk manager at the Peruvian Association of...
You're breaking off right now. You're breaking up. Renato, if you can still hear me, try and do it without video. Sometimes then at least the sound works.
I think we lost him for a minute.
Okay, so Renato has to log in again. Let's count to 3 deep inside, and then maybe it takes longer for him to reconnect, in which case we would move on. Nope, something is happening. Or not. Very difficult to read those little signs. Now, let's move on to the next slide and bring Renato back when he is back with us. Lourdes de Carpio. I hope that your connection works. You were here with us before. Please do tell us a little bit about yourself with camera and microphone.
Good morning to all. Yeah, good morning to all. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Lourdes del Carpio. I'm manager of crop insurance at La Positiva Insurance Company. Prior to joining La Positiva Insurance Company, I worked at the Ministry of Agriculture. I was there leading the crop insurance development unit, and I contributed to the first regulation on crop insurance in the country. Prior to specializing on crop insurance, I work at a government project as chief of a very interesting project to formalize property and give property rights to poor people. I'm currently working at La Positiva. I began working at La Positiva 2007. I have pioneered in the country, in Peru, the development of different insurance products, like crop insurance for small farmers, and also index insurance for catastrophic events. I am also an international speaker. I've been invited to speak about crop insurance for small farmers. I've been invited by different international organizations, such as the World Bank, IATB, Munich Re Foundation, and among other institutions. I'm a Fulbright grantee. I did a master's degree in public administration at Syracuse University in the United States. I also have a bachelor degree in political science at Augustana College in the USA. I also hold a law degree at the university in Peru, and I also have a diploma on top management from Costa Rica. So I'm always been very interested on public policies and issues regarding development. Thank you.
Thank you, Lourdes. Very interesting combination there of degrees. I'm sure it helps with the work you're doing there. Thank you. So let me just say, if we get Renato back, any sign of Renato? Doesn't look like it. So who would be next according to our slides? Gregorio. And I can see Gregorio. That's already a good start. Gregorio, please activate your microphone and then do introduce yourself, please.
Yes, good evening in my case to everybody. It's already getting dark here. I am based in Geneva. And I am both French and Peruvian. So kind of I have 2 hard disks in all my brains. And I used to live in Hong Kong for some time as well. And where I had a regional position, I was very much exposed to typhoons risk. That was a change compared to Peru, where I had earthquake risk when I grew up with earthquakes. And I'm part of this small minority of people who take insurance against earthquakes. In Peru, almost, unless forced by the bankers, almost doesn't. Well, I was one of those guys who could do it. I would take that insurance even without having a bank behind me. Same in Switzerland. Switzerland, people don't take insurance against earthquakes. Most of people don't, but I do it. So I kind of an insurance fanatic. So presently I am an independent consultant. I work mainly for the World Bank Africa, more specifically, and with Asian Development Bank, and also with the UN Agency for Disaster Risk Reduction, and sometimes from GIZ and SECO to strategic partners. And my scope of work has to do with fiscal risks management, disaster risk management, and disaster risk finance. I used to be the risk management director for Ministry of Finance of Peru from 2012 to 2016, including issues of business continuity planning and disaster recovery planning, and disaster risk finance and insurance. And I was part of the APEC and the Pacific Alliance DRFI groups, working groups. And I also was part of one of the Insurance Development Forum working groups while being in the Ministry of Finance. I almost forgot to mention that I was part of the technical teams who worked in the national development contribution of Peru to climate change, going towards COP20 and COP21. Before being in the Ministry of Finance of Peru, I was like Carlos in the SBS, and I was the head of credit risk management supervision. And before that, well, of course, I have a long background on that, and I used to be an international banker in a French international group. That's why I had that life in Hong Kong at the same time. And with extensive practical experience of country risk issues, and one of them being, of course, disaster risk, even if many people forget to include disaster risk and climate change risk into country risk management. And of course, I was an extensive promoter and user of insurance as a banker. So I would say that I am not an insurance specialist per se, but I've been working on insurance all the time.
As you said, you're an insurance fanatic. Gregorio, I think you're the first one, definitely the first one, not only today, but also on day one, who actually seems to enjoy himself participating. It's very good to hear someone laugh and smile openly, especially as we have some quite tough issues that we will discuss. So thank you so much, Gregorio, for making me smile quite often just now during your presentation there. Let me see if I'm not giving up that easily. Let me see if Renato is back. If Renato is back, could he activate his microphone so we can hear him?
Hello, Monica. I'm really sorry about that. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. So let us just try and find your slide. And with or without photograph, or with or without picture, we're happy to hear you. So do please introduce yourself now.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Monica. And hello, everybody. Hello, everyone. Well, my name is Renato Bedoya. I'm the risk manager at the Peruvian Association of Insurance Companies, APEC. I was born and raised in the lovely beaches of Lima, Peru. My background is in economics and risk management and insurance. And as the Insurer Association, we work on different initiatives to increase the insurance penetration in the country, which is only 1.7% of Peru's GDP, giving us a great space to work, though. This work involves a close interaction with congressmen, insurance regulator, ministries, while engaging in public relations on behalf of local insurance industry. I put up a list of technical committees, which I'm in charge of within APEC, to show how we organize our work internally. From the association, our main focus is how could we contribute to close the protection gap in the country. Unfortunately, public assets are not usually insured in Peru, so we engage with Insurance Development Forum to develop a comprehensive project in order to provide the Peruvian government with different insurance options to cover public schools with an innovative approach. Fortunately, entities like the ISF exist, and we could be able to implement such a project with their support. And I'm also a member of the Executive Disaster Support Group, which is the local chapter of ARISE from the United Nations, and participate in the private sector working group for the implementation of the NDCs in Peru. Thank you.
Thank you, Renato, and it was good to hear you. Glad you're back with us. And I think we have one more short presentation. Juan José Durante, should be next in the slides. There he is. So hopefully we can hear him. If we can see him, the better. But I think we're happy when we have sound. So Juan, would you please activate your microphone? And if it works, your video function as well. And introduce yourself, please.
Thank you, Monica. I hope you can hear me and also okay, great. So first of all, I would like to thank you, InsuResilience and the organizer for the invitation to participate in this panel. And it is also a pleasure to share this panel with colleagues with who I work on different initiatives in Peru. My name is Juan José Durante. I am head of risk, financing, and insurance group at the Connectivity Markets and Finance Division, Inter-American Development Bank. I am based in Washington, D.C., in the bank headquarters. As you know, let me tell you more about what we are doing at the IDB. So we have an extensive experience support member countries in Latin America and the Caribbean to implement comprehensive disaster risk management policies that includes issues such as risk identification, prevention, and mitigation. Also, strengthening capacities for emergency response, and finally, financial protection. So in particular, I am working with this comprehensive approach in the risk financing and insurance. So we want to promote and help countries to build resilience and improve the financial risk management through different topics or areas. One is to make sure that the countries are developing the appropriate strategies to mitigate the impact of climate risk and natural disasters, and that strategies are embedding and promote different instruments, such as at the macro level, for instance, cat bonds, contingent loans, and at the micro level, we promote insurance market development. For instance, we were during the presentation that Carlos made. He was focusing in agriculture insurance, which is an important area of support from the bank. So I will stop here, and I will thank you very much, and then I will add my comments during the panel. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So now we know who we're talking to. I think we don't have a slide for Carlos because Carlos was doing the presentation earlier. Okay. So just a reminder again for everybody who is participating, from now on, definitely, if you have a question for one of the panelists, then feel free to submit those questions in the chat so I have a chance to pass them on to our panelists, and I'm sure they will also keep an eye on the chat and maybe even suggest that they would like to answer this, that, and the other. I certainly have a bunch of questions, and I would like to start with Carlos and Juan. That's a question for the two of you. So it's quite a complex one, so bear with me, because we all agree that a precise and accurate quantification of hazards and exposure to disaster risk is critical for developing and choosing the most cost-effective financial instrument in responding to disasters. Now, the Superintendency of Insurance is currently working on a new system to measure earthquake and tsunami risk to better calculate insurance catastrophic reserve, including a new software tool. Carlos, Juan, what challenges do you encounter regarding data and risk modeling, and why did you actually decide to renew your models? Perhaps, Carlos, if you would like to start answering.
Thank you, Monica. Definitely, that's the question. Before I want to mention that the big challenge behind this modeling is to gather the right information, to have the right data in order to modulate the most exactly the risk that you want to calculate. This project that we have been involved in the last 5 years does not start in 2015. it starts in 2002 when we modeled the first catastrophic risk model. And this is an updated that we are working right now. This is a new version, but base its improvements on what we have built a long time ago. At the very beginning, almost 20 years ago, data was a big problem. We do not have the right data. But technology advanced, and it helps insurance industry to gathering all this information related to the georeference of the buildings and the type of constructions and the number of floors of a building. That every year help us as well a small side of not precise information that needs to be adjusted, but the big number of information has been gathering in a right way. Nowadays, this is a dynamic model in terms of we are including new information, new techniques. New techniques as well require new information to be gathered, and that means that we need some time to adjust the information to these variables that now we need to introduce in the model. That's something that will not happen from one day to the other. We need time in order to have the right information. That's one of the reasons that when we plan to change the regulation, we are going to give some a period of time in terms to gather the information that we need. But that's something that is really challenging. Our next project is to analyze the risk of drop, and we need to do the same. We need to gather information, and that project is starting from scratch. So we need to manage this long-term project, and that's what it means. It's a long-term project, and we are continuing to do this so far as we identify a new challenge to the insurance industry, but as well the modeling is not only for insurance sector or the supervisor. It can be run a portfolio of buildings. For instance, Renato was talking about schools. In this model, you can run the data from schools, and then you can have an idea of the exposure to this risk. So we are building public assets in terms of these models, and we're planning to share those with anyone that requires an idea of what are the risks that they are facing. That's what I can mention.
Thank you, Carlos. Okay. Thank you, Carlos. And I think your connection is good. So if you could keep the video on, and I would like to invite the other panelists also to activate the video function, even when they don't speak, because at least it gives the impression as if we're all in a room talking with each other. I do understand that for some of you, the connection is a bit tricky. There we can always go back to audio only. But if I can see you, then I know, okay, that we're all together. And with this question again about this new system to measure earthquake and tsunami risk, and this new software tool that's necessary. Juan, I mean, from the IADB perspective, there, what is it that you're looking for or hoping that this new system will eventually achieve?
Thank you, Monica. Let me come back to two key points Carlos was mentioning. One is this is a very challenging issue. I mean, to develop this type of platforms and models, right? So we have experience with Peru a long time ago, and it's not part of this particular development, but was the initial support and from the government to try to improve the modeling of different risks. I recall that just to show you how challenging it is to develop this type of models, and the key role of the government, the public sector, to strengthen and to promote these issues. I recall that some time ago, different institutions like the Ministry of Housing, Ministry of Economic and Finance, put together an initiative to start developing these tools through different studies in microseismic analysis in Lima, Peru, and the metropolitan area. So it's a very complex development and to accomplish a very robust platform in order to be useful for the insurance industry. I think this development that Carlos mentioned is very important to promote, not only to help what I would say to develop a macro financial strategy for the central government, but also for promoting insurance penetration in Peru, which for some specific products is not really available or needs a huge development, and there is a real need in the country. So I think this is very key. This is an initial aspect of insurance market development. So and also this initiative within the regulator is also very important to make sure that those insurance companies that are providing or offering coverage to the private sector, or probably also to the public sector, they can really be able to analyze the exposure and vulnerability and design the right insurance policies. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan. And I mean, talking from insurer's perspective, and what Carlos also said earlier, I mean, this will take time to get this tool right. And it also, we create assets, you said. Claudia, I would like to include you there, as well as Gregorio, but I start with Claudia, ladies first in that respect, because it is known that there are challenges, certainly, surrounding public assets, insuring public assets in Peru. Perhaps you could tell us why this is. What are those challenges? Why is it so difficult? And I mean, I know this tool doesn't exist yet, but in what way could this tool that is in the making eventually improve the situation? Claudia, over to you.
Sure, thank you, Monica. And I am actually delighted to hear about this work being done, because certainly access to data is one of the challenges. But let me start one by one. I would say originally and in the past, a challenge was the lack of an appropriate financial strategy, you could say, being in place that would include insurance as one of the instruments to be used. This has changed in the meantime, and the Ministry of Finance has adopted a financial strategy to manage large disasters. We were hearing about that a little bit also from Carlos. There are different financial instruments in place, whether it's the Reserve Fund for Contingencies or the Fiscal Stabilization Fund. There's a small cat bond with the World Bank. However, the strategy still does not expressly include the use of insurance as a mechanism. I think there we might need to take responsibility also as an industry to actually promote the use of insurance and the contributions it can make to a broader risk management approach. But I'll come back to that. Certainly the lack of central ownership in the government and knowledge about insurance, less so in Peru, and we are hearing of this wonderful work the superintendent is doing. However, Peru has only recently established a unit within the government that will also be responsible for buying insurance. So that is something that continues to be a challenge and that we see in other countries as well. Sometimes it can be that public assets are actually owned by the regions. And so central government leaves it to the regions to make the decision whether to buy insurance. And what this does is, of course, it misses opportunities to create, for example, a national program that will, through the diversification, regional in terms of risk, achieve a better premium in the market. And also this idea of having a central unit in the government that furthers risk management knowledge and continues to drive that. But key point, and that is addressed by what Carlos and Juan Jose were mentioning, is the challenge of lack of data. And sometimes even when data is available, it is in different formats and there's difficulty for it to be used centrally. And as an example, in Peru, we started providing input regarding what data to collect for the public schools long before our project began. So some of the things that Carlos mentioned, all the different criteria that are needed. This is important, and it was a key reason to decide to work on the public schools first in Peru as a government, rather than hospitals or roads or other public assets that certainly would need to be insured as well. I think in this area, what's important for countries to consider, and it's something we are doing in Peru, is that there are different new technologies that can be leveraged to address this challenge with data. In our project, we are including this quite innovative image capturing, remote sensing technology to complement the data that we are receiving from the Ministry of Education. And so that is something that can certainly be addressed. Regulation can be sometimes, or lack thereof, can be an obstacle sometimes. In Peru, in our project, we're seeing there's a procurement law for the government that has made reconstruction of schools quite difficult, and that we will be addressing as part of our insurance program. Co-insurance is allowed in Peru, but we have been told, for example, the creation of pools is not necessarily allowed. It's not something that we're looking to do in our project, but it's certainly a tool that has been used effectively in other countries. And at a very practical level, and I'm sure that everybody is aware, is frequent and unexpected changes in government, of course, can be a challenge when you are doing a project that is planned for 2 years. And, we've had quite a few challenges and changes there in Peru recently. We're extremely lucky that APESEC, the Association of Peruvian Insurers, is one of the partners on the project. So someone who's local, knows all the local actors very well. We have spoken with Carlos as part of before we started the project. So we feel we're very well connected there to ensure the continuity of the project. But those are just some of the challenges that can play a role.
Right. Well, Claudia, you've just touched upon a whole, bunch of issues there, and I would like to hear, because I was watching Gregorio listening, and obviously with his when he introduced himself, with the breadth of experience that you bring into this discussion, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the difficulty of public asset insurance, the data challenge, and of course also this approach now with reconstruction procurement process for public schools for faster reconstruction, and the significance this could possibly have. Gregorio, please, over to you.
Thank you very much. Well, first, I can confirm different things that were said by Claudia. Because I went through all those challenges when I entered the Ministry of Economy and Finance. I was, among other things, in charge of designing this disaster risk finance strategy. And well, the first thing I said that anyway, we are already doing things in practice. Let's not forget that we are not starting from zero here. Peru has done a number of things already. For example, Peru is already taking contingent credit facilities. It was the case with IADB, with Juan Jose, and who was in charge of that at the time. And then it was the case with World Bank as well. So the difficult issue was really insurance, because it was one of the main things I wanted to mainstream in the public finances management. And it wasn't there really. We had this lack of data. So at some moment, we decided to have a catastrophic profile for public assets, and we did it with technical assistance from the IADB, with one of the colleagues of Juan Jose, and Peruvian University, which was had a lot of experience in these kind of things. And it was difficult to gather the data because there was no a central entity, I would say, within the Ministry of Housing, in charge of public assets management, but they didn't incorporate insurance. And it was very difficult to have them mainstream the issue of insurance into the management of public assets. So it was a long, an effort which took quite a number of months. And this catastrophic profile was completed, at least for those public assets, but the exposure to earthquake first. There was another one with flood risk as well, which was much larger in its scope. But it was, the issue of data was really key one, and the quality of the data. Some of the regions, for example, of the regional governments didn't report what they had. We had less difficulties with the ministries, with the sector ministries, but it was gathering information from the regional governments was really even more challenging. The other problem was that effectively in this it took a number of significant efforts to include in the disaster risk management strategy of 2014, include the insurance aspects. It was because most parts of the government weren't used to having insurance in mind. And but it was included for both public assets and then for working with the SBS and with the EPISEG, which were both mentioned, into trying to develop further the local insurance market. I would say that on the public assets side, we had an additional challenge. It was not only the lack of a procurement agency mainstreaming insurance among its tasks. What also was the problem of the nature of the way insurance is treated in public finances management. It's current expenses. It's not investment expenses. I always try to say, well, what it has to do with investment anyway, because you protect your investment with insurance.
I see very stern looks there from some who basically represent insurers. Renato on the certainly listening to you, but there are very stern looks, and I'm just wondering if either of you would like to comment on Gregorio just telling us how basically where we come from.